and welcome to One More Thing podcast. This morning, I'm joined with Dr. Larry Baucom.
Good morning.
So, kick off new series.
Right.
After a pretty good little summer at the movies.
Oh, fantastic summer at the movies.
Awesome stuff, man. What a way to close it out with Les Mis. And it's still resonating with people, which is what you want. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was a youth pastor, I went to a youth conference, and I'll never forget what one of the speakers said. He said, my job, because their youth would meet on Wednesday nights. He said, I want to have something so profound and deep that I control the lunchroom table on Thursday at school. I said, that's great advice.
Yeah.
And I think we've controlled a lot of people's conversations this week after that. But you followed it up brilliantly. This connections, man. I saw lots of people quoting you online, like at least 5 or 6 people from our church, like taking your quote and saying, I needed that. I needed to reflect. I need to inspect. And the hard part, correct.
Right.
And it hit me. Like it was something I needed to hear about how that reflection leads to that inspection of my life and then ultimately that self-correction. Like how do you think about correction? Why are we reluctant to correct ourselves these days? We just kind of we live in this world. It's like it's my truth or it's my whatever. As a pastor, how do you respond to something like that?
Well, see, I grew up in an environment where I was being corrected all the time. So it wasn't self-correction; it was others' correction. And I celebrate today. My mother's 98 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a wonderful lady, but part of her life has been correcting.
Yep.
As a mom, she continues to correct. And I can't tell you how many conversations I have with her where she says, well, I want to talk to you about this. And I go, oh, Mom, come on. And, of course, a lot of correction like that is based on opinion. Mm-hmm. And the opinion is, this is the way I see it, and I don't see your side. So I think self-correction is so much better.
Yeah.
Because we do what's right because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We don't do what's right because we're afraid of dying and burning in hell forever in torment. We do it because we realize that we are loved and that God is a part of my life and that He's the central part. And as I age, I think it's even more dominant. My time in reflection this morning, I was reflecting, and in my reflection, it's kind of like it doesn't go in order. It's kind of like reflection's at the center, and then you connect, and then it comes back, and then all of a sudden you inspect, and it comes back, and then there's some correction, and then there's just so many avenues of that really help me. So I think that no one knows how to correct me any more than I do.
Yeah.
But I need to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And say, is this the right thing? Did I do well? I have conversation with people. And I think about the conversation. How did that go?
Yeah.
Some people have a tendency to talk more than others. Mm-hmm. And some people in a conversation, they'll dominate the conversation. A good conversation is kind of an ebb and flow,
right?
Both and I want to be a person that always enjoys the ebb and flow.
Yes.
So sometimes it's time to speak up.
That's it.
And sometimes it's time to listen.
That's it.
And I, as part of reflection this week, I'm thinking about the congregation and the needs of our community. I talked to several people who are going through, one's going to have probably an open heart surgery. One just had a gallbladder surgery. Another one's going to have a stent today. And I start thinking about the levels, which one's more and more important. Of course, I can say that heart surgery is probably the most significant.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the others aren't as important to them.
That's right. That's right.
So I jokingly a lot of times say, the difference between major surgery and minor surgery. Major is when it happens to me.
Yes, that's right.
And it's minor when it happens to anyone else. But we care for people. And
Yes.
I want to be a caring, loving, attentive, even though sometimes I have to be careful because, some of the people's greatest needs are insignificant.
Yeah.
Pray about this and in the scope of life.
Right.
It's probably not that significant, but
I saw this reel. It was kind of funny. He's a Christian comedian, and he said, if I'm being honest, there's some things I'm not going to pray for.
yeah.
He goes, as a pastor, when I was a pastor, he goes, some guy comes up to me, hey, pastor, I need you to pray for me, man.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What? Well, what's up? I really need to pass my drug test tomorrow at work. And he's like, I'm not going to pray for that,
That's right.
And there's certain things, it's not like we prioritize it, but it goes back to something like Christ said, right? He says, take that log out of your eye first, before you worry about the one that's in your brother's eye.
Right.
Why is that? Why is that such an important teaching for us in our community? Because you mentioned it in the sermon.
Right.
You said, "Oh boy, do we love correction?"
Right.
But mostly when it's of others.
Right. And that's the judgment part.
Right.
And, our number one value, which you know very well, is we're a hospital, not a courtroom. And being a hospital is caring for people, not judging them. There's so many areas that we can judge. I had cataract surgery last year, and I had a cataract removed. Oh, my gosh. I'll tell you, they've made it so easy. It was easier than having your teeth cleaned.
Come on.
Some people say, "Oh, pray for me. I'm having cataract surgery." I said, I don't pray for you when you're going to have your teeth cleaned. But people don't know, and sometimes the prayers is the unknown.
That's right.
We don't know, and once we know, we go, "Sorry, that was so insignificant." But it's so nice to be able to love people and hope they win, and pray for people regardless of where they are. I love the expression, when the tide goes up, all the boats are lifted.
Yeah.
And how do we raise the tide in our community? How do we raise the level of the love of God? We don't do everything, but what we try to do is, we change a lot of oil in cars, and we give a lot of cars away.
Yeah.
And we also provide a lot of financial support to people who are needy, not necessarily for rent, but sometimes for a utility bill or groceries and things like that.
Yeah.
But we really want to love people at a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us. I think about the life of Jesus, in Mark, where, after the big healing thing, he pulls himself out and he goes away to pray.
Yep.
What's he doing? He's reflecting.
Yep.
So what is reflecting? It's pausing, thinking. And sometimes it's a dialogue with God.
Yep.
And that's a prayer.
Yep.
And sometimes just thinking about what I said.
Yep.
And maybe I should have said that better.
Yep.
Or maybe I didn't give them the level of care that I should have.
Right.
But I think that we get better as we reflect more, and as we connect more,
Yep.
and as we correct more. I just think that's part of the whole scenario.
So my last question is, I'm gonna say something. I want you to respond to it, because this is something I believe, and I posted it on my Instagram, and lots of people were, liking it, whatever. But this idea of like self-correction and inspection, and reflection, right? It's something I do every day, every morning. I get up. The first thing I do is I swig my water, and I lay in bed and just think. Not just about the things I have to do, but I think about my children. I think about my life, the people in my life, my community. But Richard Rohr said something, I'm going to paraphrase this. Whatever or wherever sin, we don't harp on sin a lot because we have a very unique view of it, but wherever sin or whatever sin is, he says, it will grow all the faster in the areas of your life where you refuse to grow at all. And I took that as saying something along the lines of, if I'm not inspecting, things can, because sin is that sort of separation, right? Things can begin to grow in my life that I really don't want there if I'm not growing in those areas. Right. Something else will grow. What do you think about?
That's deep, man. It's early in the morning. You have to think. I do think that the more we inspect, the more we reflect. And I think there's some areas in our life, my mind is going about the sin thing.
Yeah.
For me, sin is, I don't know so much separation as it would be when I'm not at my best.
That's it. Yeah.
So when I don't inspect, and I don't correct, and I don't love, I think that's when, and I don't like to use the word sin, but that's when I'd say I'm least effective. That's when I'm not at my best. That's when maybe the ego kicks in a little more, and it should not. But I think that the call is to keep pulling people to try it.
That's it.
If we can get them to try it,
that's it.
It works. And I've lived my life now. I'm only 67 years old. I don't mind saying it and I'll say that because just in a couple weeks, it's going to be 68.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I'm 67.
Right.
But I've learned some things, and I've lived this particular devotional practice.
Yep.
And I've practiced these things. And Richard Foster's, the spiritual disciplines. I've done fasting and praying. And at this point in my life, I find that the key is just taking time to stop what I'm doing and think about what I'm doing.
That's it.
And talk to God about it. And sometimes when I talk to God, I don't talk to him. I listen for him. Hey, how'd I do there? Boy, how about smiling a little more?
Yep.
You know, I'd love to just have a pandemic of kindness and smiles. Could change the world.
That's it.
But as I reflect, I go, I think we can change some things. I listened to somebody recently said, you were born to fix a problem. You know, the question when you're born is, what's the problem?
Yep.
And with that, find out what the problem is, and you're the solution to that problem.
Yep.
And quit looking for all these things, but begin to solve some things.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Sometimes when we reflect, we begin to say, maybe the problem is that they've shut down to God, or they've been so burned by Christianity, or they've been so put off by the thought that there's a loving Heavenly Father that's going to send you to hell forever.
Right.
So how does that work? And I think that as we pause and we get this connection.
That's it.
I mean, we talked about the connection. I've been to Rome, to the Vatican, where you see the picture in the Sistine Chapel, God reaching down to man, the fingers like this, and they're touching together, and said God to humanity. And I go, that's great. That's a Renaissance view.
Right.
But it's not my view.
That's right.
My view is it's in here.
It's already there.
And I just need to open up to what is already available to me. And it's sad when I don't realize that and I don't do it. Or I keep thinking that I'm not worthy. But when I realize that I am a child of God and that he loves me, transformation happens. So the end game is connection, transformation.
That's it.
Period.
Awesome, man. It was a great kickoff, Dr. Baucom. Really looking forward to this Sunday and see where it progresses from here. It's going to be amazing.
We'll find out.
Awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.